Hi, welcome to another weekly recap of Trinidad Bhojpuri words and phrase. What a firecracker week! We had some really exciting words, which, as usual, stimulated a lot of conversation. Now, we went from Saagar to Suggaa to Cheenee Chalay. In this episode, we'll briefly explore the history behind a name, and the name chosen was Samaaroo. And we wrapped up the week with Kharochni. Let's get started. I'm Karen Das.
And I'm Dr. Visham Bhimull from Caribbean Hindustani.
Okay, so let's go with our first word on Monday, which was a refreshing word, Saagar.
We hear it in Bollywood expressions as well as things like the Hanuman Chalisa. So, Sagar Kinare, which is the next Sagar Kinare means the seashore, right? Kinare is at the side of. So, Sagar Kinare at the seashore. And then Karunaki Sagar or the repository of compassion, which is in the Hanuman Chalisa.
So Sagar is ocean, sea, beach.
Either or Sat Samundar. Samundar is another expression. So I never heard Sat Sagar. So yeah, it just means ocean or sea, large body of water, which would have been the root here.
All right. On Tuesday, we picked a nice word. It's a fond creature, a pet, maybe for some of you. Suggaa. Suggaa was chosen on Tuesday, except I noted that some referred to a needle, a large needle.
Right, so it sounds like Suja, which is a large needle for sewing. But Sugga, it also exists in Hindi as well, right? It's more frequent in Bhojpuri or Trinidad Bhojpuri. Tota is the Hindi equivalent or the other synonym used in Hindi more frequently.
Right. So Suggaa is basically a parrot. I noted some on Facebook said a multicolored bird. On Wednesday, we go with our Trinidad Bhojpuri phrase. Very, very nice phrase chosen. Cheenee Chalay. Now, I should note that some got the Cheenee right and confessed that they were not familiar with Charlie. And you put the two together, it's quite significant.
But you hear it in expressions, or at least in the interviews I would do, when they use the word Arkatialo, which is the recruitment officers, the reasons they would have given them. So kidnapping was one, as well as basically telling, trying to persuade them with falsehoods or lies. So uh, Cheenee Chalay was the job they thought they would come here to do. Cheenee meaning sugar. Chalay means to sift.
So, Cheenee Chalay, it's basically to
To
sift
sift sugar.
sugar. Mhm. And this took us to Thursday's word, which was a name. Samaaroo was a name chosen. And we went with this because choosing a name for a child is a very, very special process. Today, you could just go online and you can look up the top names for 2021, baby boy names or baby girl names, and you go with that. Some depend on the guidance of a pundit or priest for a name, but your name is your identity, and depending on a culture and religion, this name holds great and deep significance. So Samaaroo was chosen on Thursday. Tell us more.
Right. Remember the whole idea of reading a patra or the astrology based on Hinduism in naming a child is a Jyotish or a science, right? Um, Remember, you have different types of pundits. A Jyotish is one type, and because we were limited in the amount of people who could do it during the internship, you tend to find pundits do everything. You're not divided into special things like either Jyotish or doing yajnas, or the pundits actually divided based on that. The different tasks that they might do, as well as the availability of a pundit. It took some time for us to gather all the knowledge with regarding Hinduism that is unique to us. Mahasabha was quite quite crucial there in doing that. But long ago, when there wasn't a pundit, you know how they normally do it? You have a nakshatra, which means constellation, and you utilize the syllables that start the constellation to start the name of the individual or the baby as born. Um, in Hinduism, we believe in astrology, so that even in doing religious things, you would have that name attached to you. When they couldn't really do that, what they would do is they would name it based on the days of the week. I wouldn't go through all, but just because Samaru is related to one born on a Monday, the Hindi word for Monday is Somvar. Normally in Hindi, you end in var meaning time, right? And it's designated to a celestial. So Monday, as in English, the day of the moon. In the same way, in Hindi is the Somvar, the time of the moon, right? Or the period of the moon, which is Monday. Um, that becomes Samar or Somar in Bhojpuri, Trinidad Bhojpuri specifically Samar, and then usually at a ending um, uh, Aru or Ra at the end. So Samar becomes Samaru. So it'll be a boy born on Monday, and then the suffix for the girl will be Samaria, which would be a girl born on Monday.
Oh, Samaria or Somaria.
Yeah, so Maria, I hear Samaria,
Mm-hmm.
Somaria, words like that. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so and that would go for other days of the week. Well, we'll tackle those names or
Right.
similar names
But
in the
I
future.
wanted to say that there were two other responses. People saying it was a festival, and
Mm-hmm.
some people saying it was related to take care, right? I think
Yes.
take care. They kind of it sounds like samar, right? Sambhal in Hindi. They say samar ke chale or chalo means well go on your way carefully, or they normally say be safe, right? So samar ke means on being safe. So sambhal. So you see samar sounds like samaru. So that's why they thought it was that. So one response that we had was about Samaru related to a festival, but based on the research and not, that's probably something particular to a certain area in India. I'm not sure if indentured laborers would have come from that region, but I don't know of it.
Mm. Okay, so Samaru was a name chosen for Thursday, and we had someone on Facebook who suggested that we do some more episodes on names because it is rather fascinating, the history behind our name. So we will take that into consideration. And we wrapped up the week, as usual, with a food-related word, and this is a nice treat for so many. Kharochni. Kharochni was our word last Friday.
Yeah, so I think somebody had also made the comment that Kharochna,
Mhm.
Kharochna, which means to scrape. So now I know it used in the context of making ghee or ghee, where they take the sarhi and they would allow it to become rancid and then boil it in a pot, and the ghee or the fatty part of the milk or the cream comes to the top, and you would uh, decant it off, right?
Mm.
Whatever remains then at the bottom becomes brown, so they would scrape it off, right, and mix it with sugar. There's also reference to people talking about the coconut oil when they make it is the same. Now remember the whole idea of coconut milk and cow's milk, they are
Coconut
colloids, so that I guess it's the same chemical composition. So the idea of the boiling down to kind of separate the fat, which is coconut oil, or the ghee or ghee from the colloid would be the same. So I guess the same would apply with the brown to the bottom. So Kharochni means to scrape. So it comes like Kharochni means scrapings
Mhm.
from either preparation, and then they would add some sugar to it, so it becomes like a delicacy, a sweet.
Well, Iqbal from Fiji said he's familiar with kurchani, which is a grater, and to grate would be kurcho. In Mauritius, according to Santana Gudyal, he knows the word as kakorni.
Right, there are variants like
Hmm.
Kharochni versus Kharochni versus they have various variants according to the um, R.S. McGregor dictionary. Kharochni with the nasal is the variant, but obviously there would be more variants less frequently encountered or not recorded in the research as such. So yeah, I would if there's a word that sounds similar, that means the same, then that's likely.
Well, it's rather interesting because I had a conversation with Pandit Ram Sundar Parasram, and we all know him here as Uncle Paras now. He confessed that he's not familiar too much with the making of coconut oil, but everybody knows that Pandit Ram Sundar Parasram has been taking care of cows for many, many years. So he is very much familiar with the ghee making process. And while he wasn't too familiar with Kharochni, he referred to it as kurchan and basically said that kurchan is literally means remnants or whatever remains.
Right. Yeah. So this is not the only example I would have noticed. I mean, there are other examples as well. For instance, to say um for the sake of somebody or for somebody, you say ke khatir, but ke khartin I also hear, right? Khartin I heard in Trinidad, but not as often as you'd hear in Suriname. So this is another example of a variant. If you would take the word kurchan and add e to the end, it becomes kurchani and then kharochni,
Mhm.
right? So it shows that it's related. You also have to take into consideration the ancestry of the person. So which one of the languages they would grow up speaking and what influence it would have. Remember, Trinidad Bhojpuri is an amalgamation of dialects, of Bhojpuri dialects that reflects even the recruitment over time. Right? It started from the east and went across to the west. So embedded in the language is that movement of recruitment. Um, so that it would have crystallized into one basic language that everybody use similar expressions. But at households, it might be very different based on where the ancestors would have come from. I know his
Mm.
I'm not sure if it's his father or his grandfather came from India, and they had traced their roots. So if we look back at those things that might be particular to that as well, that would explain why that variant of the same word would be more in his mind than
Mm.
everybody else, or at least what is the common word used there.
Yeah. I also picked up from other folks in chatting about Kharochni. A few said kocha. And now, when I'm listening to you talk about pronunciation, I'm listening to you talk about the variants. It is also to be noted that over generations, pronunciations change. So it's like when you tell a secret to somebody in a circle, by the time it gets back to you, it's completely different. So if you started off with Kurjan in your home, somewhere down the line, somebody picked up Kocha,
But
and that's because that's what I heard some women refer
it's,
to
it's,
the burnt coconut as kocha.
right, it's possible. What I wanted to say there is that um, you could tell if it's a variant versus if it's a mispronunciation um, based on the usage and the form of the word, so that the Kharochni had the end has the ani,
Mhm.
right? Like chate means to lick, and then you have chutney, which is chutney, right?
Ah, yes.
So it means relish, which you lick. So I'm also looking at the form of the word and common suffixes at the end, which would more attest to it being like a variant versus a mispronunciation, right? The clear words that would have been mispronounced, like Jahaji bundle becomes Georgie bundle. But
Yes.
again, but yeah, so you would have those mispronunciations. And one thing it's very important to remember is that you don't want to get, when you're doing such research, you don't want to get lost in the fact that saying, oh, that's a mispronunciation. That's an anglicization of the word. When it actually is the Trinidad Bhojpuri pronunciation. So, yeah, that's one reason why a lot of people look at down a language in inferiority, thinking that Trinidad Bhojpuri is a mispronunciation of modern standard Hindi, and they also feel it's because of anglicization, so that they feel
Mm.
it's a corrupted word. But when you go down into the etymology of the word, the morphology of the word, the phonology of the word, it is tend to reveal different things. I'll give you a quick example. So, Pasad Bisesa, Kamla Pasad Bisesa, right?
Mhm.
Bisesa is anglicization of B Sir, which is Bhojpuri, which is Vishishwar in Hindi. So there are clear rules as to how that is, where va becomes ba and sha becomes sa. So Vishishwar becomes B Sir, which is Trinidad Bhojpuri pronunciation, which is now anglicized to Bisesa. So you see how I identify what the original Trinidad Bhojpuri is and what the anglicized
Mhm.
variety is. But somebody who don't have that sort of linguistic knowledge might say, well, BC sir or Bisesa, BC sir is a mispronunciation of Vishishwar in Hindi, right? Vishishwar means Lord of the Universe, right? Or God of the Universe. So that's another example there. So you have to be very particular about saying variant from the original language versus mispronunciation. That's,
Mispronunciation.
yeah, that's clear. That actually have linguistically have ways to know which it is. Mm.
I don't know anybody looking at these videos, these weekly recaps are not fascinated by language, not fascinated by words. I'm so happy to have your company on Trinidad Bhojpuri. So that wraps up another week for Trinidad Bhojpuri words and phrase. Well done, everybody. So Dr. Bhimull, someone was asking about Bhojpuri classes. So I think it would be quite appropriate for you to give your contact information.
Right. So I mean, the Bhojpuri classes, Trinidad Bhojpuri classes should probably be available pretty soon. Just follow Caribbean Hindustani, the Facebook page, the YouTube page, as well as the website caribbeanhindustani.org. And then, well, I usually do stuff with the Lloyd Best Institute or Yard campus of Lloyd Best Institute in Tunapuna. So yeah, I usually would do classes with them ever so often. So once
Mhm.
it's available, the link will be posted on the media I just told you about.
All right, so that's Dr. Visham Bhimull of Caribbean Hindustani, and I'm Karen Das of the KDC. You can always reach out to us via Facebook. Just drop us a line. Let us know how you're enjoying the series so far. And if you have your suggestions, as so many of you do, we look forward to those as well. Till next week. Bye.